In this video, we will show you how to replace your front window regulator on this Honda Civic. This will be located behind your front door panel. Let's get into it. Okay friends, let's get started removing this door panel. To do that, we'll make our way right inside of where the inside door handle is. Use a small pocket screwdriver and remove the small trap door. We'll give it a quick inspection and set that aside. As we continue, you'll find that you have a Phillips head screw located directly behind this. Remove it. With that screw out of there, we'll continue on pulling on the inside door handle. If you were to move towards the front of the vehicle, you'll find that you have a small push clip also holding this door panel in place. We'll use a small screwdriver and press in on the center. That will unlock it. Now we'll continue with a pick, or even that small screwdriver, whatever works for you, and carefully try to pull this pin out of place. This can be a little bit difficult at times. Now here we have the push pin. You can see I have the center pushed out of place. Let's take that and push it right on back through the other direction. At this point, this push pin is in the unlock position. Set this aside. Now let's move just underneath that. We're going to start removing this trim panel. While doing so, keep in mind there's several switches, which means that there will be wiring located behind this area. Continue on with the trim tool and gently pop this up and out of place coming from the rear side here. Along the front, there's a small hook that comes underneath the door panel, so we'll lift this up and pull it rearward. There's that hook that I was talking about. Now under this area, we can continue on with removing our wiring harnesses. On each one of the wiring harnesses, you're going to find that it has a locking tab. You would want to press that towards the wires and gently pull this out of position. Once you do, go ahead and give that wiring a quick check for corrosion and set it aside. That one looks fine. Same process for this wiring harness. We'll press on that locking tab and give it a quick inspection. We'll also inspect the ports on the switches themselves to make sure those are not corroded. Let's set this aside. With that out of the way, we have a clear view of this Phillips head screw. Let's get that out of there. Now with that anchor bolt out of there, we're going to continue by removing the door panel using a trim tool, making our way all the way along the bottom side of this door panel, all the way around. Once we have the bottom pulled away, we can carefully start shimmying this up a little bit. Along the top of the door panel, there's a hooked area that sits into the door. Once we have it up high enough, we can start pulling this away. But keep in mind, there is cables that run along the backside here that go to the handle and the lock. Let's use our plastic trim tool to start separating this. So with this pulled away, you can see both of those cables. As for this top one, it's held in place into this plastic area attached to the handle itself. You can use a small pocket screwdriver and carefully pry that out of place. Once you have that out of place, we can continue on to removing it from the black plastic area. It has this locking pin on it. We just pulled that out of place using a small pocket screwdriver. Give the cable a quick inspection, make sure it is not damaged and it is still reusable. Now we can make our way down to this one. As for this clip, you're going to be using your small pocket screwdriver or pick. Inside of this squared out notch, there's a small locking tab. Generally, you can just grab onto that, give it a little tug, and this should want to separate. Now with that out of there, we'll continue following it down to this end. Once again, you have that black locking hook connector. You just want to use your small pocket screwdriver to pop that out of place. Now we can remove the cable. Set that aside. With the door panel out of the way, we're going to continue on by removing the vapor barrier. That's this plastic area. To get this out of the way, you'll find that you do have a wiring harness that you will have to first remove. Use a small pocket screwdriver. Press on that locking tab, remove the wiring harness, and give it a quick inspection. Now we can take that vapor barrier and we'll start pulling it away, making sure that we slide the wiring and our cables through their corresponding slots in the vapor barrier. One last thing while we're pulling this away is you will find that you have this black goo making its way around. That's called butyl tape. It's extremely sticky and it will ruin your clothes. Set this aside. Now with that out of the way, we have a clear view of the window regulator. As far as the window regulator removal, you want to make sure that you have the window down far enough that you can gain access to both of these two mounting bolts. Now we can continue on to disconnecting the wiring. You'll find that it's mounted in place in several areas. For this first area, if you were to look along the back side of the door, you're going to find that this clip has two locking tabs, one up along the top, one along the bottom. Use a small screwdriver or some pliers and squeeze it towards the center. Gently pull it out of place. I'll show you what it looks like in 1 second. There's one tab. There's the other. Now we'll follow it towards the window regulator. For that, we'll just use a trim tool and pop that out of place. Quick inspection. Now we can disconnect the window motor. To do that, there's a small squeeze tab along the back side here. I'm going to give it a little squeeze and pull this down and out of place. Give it a quick check for corrosion. There's that squeeze tab. Set that wiring aside. Now here's where we're going to need to be extremely careful. We're going to be disconnecting the window from the window regulator. For this, there's two 10mm headed mounting bolts. Once we have those removed, we'll carefully start lifting up the window to the fully upright position and hold it in place. I will be using tape. There's those. Set them aside. Since tape is a lot cheaper than replacing glass, I'll be using several pieces of tape. Once you're sure that that glass is secured properly, we'll continue on removing the window regulator from inside of the door. Be extremely careful for any pinch points while you're in this area. To remove that window regulator, you'll find that you have four 10mm headed mounting bolts holding it in place. Two along the bottom and two along the top. On this last one, I'll make sure that I'm holding onto that regulator so it doesn't fall. Once those are out, you can carefully remove that window regulator. And there it is, friends. Now with the window regulator out of the door, we're going to continue on to removing this mounting point. This is the anchor port for that bolt that comes through the door panel straight into here. So you need to make sure that you do reuse this. Looking inside of this area, you can see that there's two little tabs. We'll be squeezing on those tabs using some long nose pliers and gently pull this out of place. Once you've done that, go ahead and transfer it over to the brand new window regulator. All right, let's get that brand new window regulator ready for installation. We'll take that pink tab and slide it back into the proper position, making sure that we have that small arrowed area facing down. There we are, tight squeeze, it's in there secured. Let's get this in the door. Now we can prepare to install that brand new window regulator. Let's take one of our 10mm headed mounting bolts and start it into the top left corner. Bring the window regulator into the proper position, aligning that mounting bolt with its corresponding hole. Now we can start in all three of our other mounting bolts. Once you have each of these started, we'll snug them up. Now with this fully mounted to the door, we want to reconnect the window motor and bring this up to the original position as when we had removed the window regulator from the window in the first place. So these two holes are all the way up at this mounting point. To do that, we'll make sure that we connect in our window motor. Listen for a click from that. Now we can reconnect our window switch. We'll be taking that larger connector and connecting that in right along the bottom area here. Get this one plugged in as well. Now we can put the key in the on position and we'll power the window regulator up. That's pretty good. Remove your key and disconnect your electrical connectors. Now with that in the upright position, let's carefully take hold of that window. We're going to remove our tape and start bringing this down to the original position, making sure that it's aligned properly with the window regulator. Before you release that window, make sure that it's sitting properly. You do not want the window to fall down and potentially get broken. Now I'll hold this in place and continue on with my two 10mm headed mounting bolts. Double check to make sure both of those are secured. Now let's move to our electrical connectors. Connect your window motor. Listen for a click, give it a tug so you're sure that that is secured properly. Now we can continue on with the rest of the wiring. For our application, we'll be trimming this mounting point off of here. We'll just use some cutters for that. Now we'll take a wire tie and come right around this beam right here. You do not want to go around this larger beam because it will get caught while the window regulator goes down. Take our wire tie, put it right on through that hole, and now we can secure the wire. Now we can continue on with that vapor barrier. To put this in the proper position, we'll start with the wiring. Now looking at this vapor barrier, we'll look along the forward side. You have this larger slot, which is for our 2 cables. The slot that's located directly below that would be for the wiring to make its way through. So let's take the wiring and slide it right on through that smaller slot. Now with it pulled through this far, let's pull this back. We'll secure that wiring into its proper spot. Go ahead and press that and listen for a click. Reconnect your wiring harness. Once again, we're listening for a click. Now it's time for those 2 cables. We'll be putting those through the larger slot. Once you have everything through the vapor barrier, you can reattach that vapor barrier back to the door. If it doesn't seem like it's sitting on there properly, you could use some tape. It's your prerogative. Okay, now it's time to reinstall our door panel. Before we put this back into position, you remember that up along the top where the handle and door lock was, there needs to be 2 cables that go into the proper position. But aside from that, we had used a trim tool to start removing the lower aspect of the door panel. So with that said, along the bottom, there are several push tabs that you will want to align with the corresponding spots on the door itself. Let's start with the cables. Take the gray cable and start that one down along the bottom here. We'll be putting the little end into this red locking connector. Now with that pressed in, we'll make sure that we lock it in. Just swing that red tab over. Now that we have the cable in there, let's get it into our white locking connector. Try to get that back into the original position. And typically you would just squeeze this locking connector to hold it in place. If yours is broken, like ours is, and it just doesn't want to hold, you can try using a wire tie. We'll just use this to lock it in so it holds that cable for us. Now it's time for our next cable. Slide this right in there. We'll lock it in. Swing this white area over to where it connects in here. We'll press that right in. And now we'll make sure that we lock it in with this white locking tab. Continue on with the wires. We'll put those up and through that door handle area. And now we'll bring the door panel up nice and high and bring the lip down and over the door. Should want to slide right down on there. With the door panel pressed all the way down, we'll continue on by aligning our locking tabs with the door and press it into the proper position. Now we can put in our Phillips head anchor bolt. Reconnect the window switch, door lock, and mirror switches. Press that in as far as you can. Double check to make sure it's secure. Get a nice audible click from that one. Now we can start reattaching this to the door panel. As you remember, when you had removed it, along the forward area, there is this small hook. That hook will go underneath this door panel, right under this area. Let's take this and bring it in at an angle, and then lock it down into the proper position. I got the hook under there. We'll swing it down. Press it until you hear a click. Double check to make sure it's secured all the way around. Let's make our way back up to that inside door handle. We'll continue on with our Phillips head screw. Now it's time for the push clip. Make sure it is in the unlocked position with the center pulling up and away towards us. Once we have it in there, we'll drive this in so it's flush with the outer portion. Time for the trap door. Along this portion, you have a small hooked area. Just like with that little trim panel, you want to slide that behind the panel itself and then lock it in with this locking tab. Okay, friends, we fully installed our window regulator. At this point, go ahead and put the key in the on position and test your window functionality. Aside from that, thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.